The recent State of Play event was disappointing. While it showcased many games that I am genuinely excited about, that isn't my main concern. Sony seems to have lost focus when it comes to first-party titles, and this event only reinforced that belief. I had originally planned to create a video discussing my thoughts on Sony's current situation and their increasing reliance on third-party video games. However, after the State of Play announcement, I decided to postpone the video and revise it based on the event's outcome. Sony performs best when it faces competition from Xbox. Unfortunately, Xbox seems to be following a path similar to Sega during the Dreamcast era, a trajectory influenced by the failures that began with the Xbox One. The Series S, along with Microsoft's mandate for developers to create games for their less powerful version, has hindered many titles from launching on their console. With Xbox only selling half as many units as the PlayStation 5, and most of their games inevitably being available on PlayStation, Xbox can no longer be viewed as a significant competitor. This lack of competition allows Sony to rest on its laurels rather than innovate. The video game industry is seeing high-budget AAA titles that struggle to break even, alongside the closure of studios and layoffs. Additionally, Sony's major acquisition of Bungie has turned out to be an incredible disaster. Overall, it appears that Sony is in a dire position. Since 2020, Sony has shown a lack of urgency in their release schedule. During the era of the PlayStation 2, Sony not only secured exclusivity for hundreds of third-party video games, but also developed a large number of their own titles. Games for kids and teens like Sly Cooper, Jak and Daxter, and Ratchet & Clank, along with mature games such as God of War and SOCOM, kept Sony's name relevant in the conversation. The PlayStation 3 faced stiff competition from the impressive Xbox 360 and fought for its market presence with remarkable first-party titles such as Infamous, Resistance, Killzone, Little Big Planet, Uncharted, and the iconic The Last of Us. However, the immense critical and commercial success of The Last of Us in the Uncharted series led Sony to focus primarily on realistic, third-person action-adventure games. After Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart fell short of its sales expectations, I don't anticipate seeing more entries in that franchise in the future. Sony seems to have adopted a boring and cautious approach, relying on partnerships with third-party titles. This includes marketing deals and timed exclusivity agreements, which negatively impact the sales of the games involved. Sony's adoption rate for their first-party titles and timed exclusives has been disappointing. Given the number of consoles in players' hands, one would expect better performance. It seems that Sony misunderstands their current position. The PlayStation 5 has become the console for the average user, those who purchase games like FIFA, 2K, Madden, and Call of Duty, and those who use their console primarily as a living room media device. Shuhei Yoshida's comment about needing to purchase remasters of Sony games to fund their AAA titles indicates that Sony is moving towards day-and-date multi-platform publishing. It's obvious. With the release of the Nintendo Switch 2 approaching, this is a poor time for Sony to hold a presentation that lacks significant exclusive titles. It seems that Sony is not taking Nintendo seriously as a competitor, and I believe the Switch 2 will prove them very wrong. Sony has lost the plot, and I'm no longer interested in investing in their platform. I see no signs of this changing, and with the latest State of Play, this has become even more clear. Now I want to freestyle this a little bit and talk about what I actually liked from the State of Play. Sonic Racing Crossworlds looks incredibly good. I thought Team Sonic Racing was super stiff. Sonic has made way better racing games in the past. Sonic Riders, All-Stars Racing Transformed, those are the best. It seems like they've been taking notes from All-Stars Racing Transformed and Sonic Riders to make this new game, and I'm super excited to see Extreme Gear come back. I hope that they have super epic music. It needs to be tight. If it's not tight and it doesn't feel good, I'm gonna be upset yet again. But as a Sonic fan, we get disappointed all the time, so I'm just expecting it. Digimon Story Time Stranger is probably the most exciting announcement of this entire State of Play for me personally, because I'm a huge Digimon fan, especially Dawn and Dusk. And if you haven't played Cyber Sleuth, you should definitely pick up the complete edition. It's one of my favorite turn-based JRPGs. Not only does it have a mature story, but I think it's better than the majority of Pokemon games that have been released by Game Freak in pretty much their entire history of being a company. If you're a big fan of games like Shin Megami Tensei and Persona, you should really play this game. I think you're missing out. Raising and collecting Digimon has never been more fun than in Cyber Sleuth. So Time Stranger is going to be even more epic than that. They've updated all the models. It's going to be a great game. I've heard a lot about it. I know a lot about it. So if you're just a turn-based fan in general, you should definitely keep an eye on this one. I would probably pre-order it. I'm not going to lie. I normally don't suggest people pre-order stuff, but this is probably the one that you should be looking forward to. Don't worry about what people have to say about it that are just regular critics. Like, watch out for what Final Weapon has to say about it. I'm telling you, we are the source of information. If you want to get your news and reviews from people who actually play these games and consume these series. I also recommend Digimon content creators. Those people know ball. If the Digimon YouTubers think it's good, it's probably great. My opinions on Lost Soul aside are honestly pretty controversial. I think the game kind of looks directionless, and I'm interested to see what it ends up being. I hope it's a great game. I never want any video games that come out to fail. Video games succeeding is important for us, and it's important for the industry to survive, especially indies and games that are from studios that are not well known. We need more games that are not AAAs that are getting a lot of sales so that we can get companies like Sony to stop hyperfixating on AAA titles. Not everything has to be hyper realistic, third person in an action adventure game. Like, we can do better. Lies of P Overture has my attention because I've been waiting for that Lies of P DLC to come out for quite some time. They announced it a while ago, and we are now finally seeing what it is. Overture is a prequel to Lies of P, and if you haven't played Lies of P, you definitely need to pick it up, especially if you're a Souls-like fan. It is very difficult. Even if you've beaten Orphan of Kos and Bloodborne, the old hunters, even if you've beaten Melania and Elden Ring, it's just not comparable to those games. It's much harder. The fights in that game are much more difficult in my opinion. I would recommend this to people who are really obsessed with difficulty. I wouldn't say any of the fights are comparable to like Yozora from Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, especially in Critical, but the game is incredibly difficult, and overall the game's much harder than all of the games that I've mentioned. For some, the difficulty of Lies of P can be very off-putting, but for me, it's very exciting. One thing that Elden Ring improved on comparatively to past Souls games is that it's way better with checkpoints, and Lies of P takes you right back to the period of time where Souls had really messed up checkpoints. So if you like that style of difficulty and that just frustration of losing and having to go back and walk all the way back to the boss, that's the game for you. I mean, Lies of P is the perfect game for people who just want to be destroyed. Split Fiction looks dope. I'm gonna play it. I don't have much to say about it, honestly. I'm just gonna put that there. Tides of Annihilation was one of the big surprises from the state of play. It looks great. I'm just not interested in these DMC clones. While I love DMC 5 and I absolutely love Final Fantasy 16, this game in particular, especially from the recent video that I watched that showed some of the gameplay, the user interface looks like Final Fantasy 16. And that's fine. I mean, it's good to take inspiration from things. I definitely think they took inspiration from Final Fantasy 16 because it looks extremely, extremely similar. It almost looks like a carbon copy of the interface. There's quite a few gripes that I have with this type of video game, especially just DMC clones and sometimes even DMC in general, where I just feel like even regardless of what difficulty I'm playing, I feel like I'm just smacking the same enemies over and over and they're not fighting back. So if you want more opinions on how I feel about this genre of games, specifically how I feel about Tides of Annihilation, I do talk about it a little more in depth in the 5th episode of Weaponized. So when that comes out, definitely watch it if you're interested in my opinions and thoughts on that. Days Gone Remastered, for real. We've already had this conversation. Travion, go.
Yeah, before I ask my question, I just want to say I played Days Is Gone a few days ago, and I just want to take that day back because that game is...
Lastly, for games that caught my attention, Monster Hunter Wilds. That's it. Monster Hunter Wilds. To end this video off, I think I'm going to be a PC and Switch 2 guy going forward. if Sony somehow turns it around and shows me that they have the creativity and they're willing to take risks, maybe I'll reconsider. But for now, I've lost all hope, so I don't think that's ever going to happen. Like, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, comment, tell me what you think, and thank you for watching.